Motion to dismiss Enrique Tarrio, one of the leaders allegedly of the Proud Boys, somebody charged with seditious conspiracy in the Great Fedsurrection, is now filing a big motion, a juicy one that might result in the case being dismissed if it's granted. And in my opinion, cases that involve prosecutors putting their thumbs on witnesses so that the witnesses won't testify for the defense should be dismissed. Let's get some background on this. Of course, this is the Proud Boy leader. You see a photograph of him here, and evidently the Proud Boys were there on January 6th. He wasn't. He wasn't even in D.C. at the time. He already got in trouble the night before and was asked not to return to D.C., and so he wasn't there. But the Proud Boys trial is starting right around the corner, about 2 weeks from today, and there's a big fight over officer testimony, okay? Not just some random witness, an officer who was there. And guess who wants to call the police officer to testify on his behalf? Yeah, that's right. Enrique Tarrio, one of the Proud Boys. He is charged with sedition. A legal fight has erupted over a Washington, D.C. police officer who was communicating with the Proud Boys leader, Enrique Tarrio, in the run-up to J6. We're going to read a motion to dismiss that's based on this gentleman. His name is Lieutenant Shane Lamond. His testimony, according to the defense, is crucial for the former Proud Boys' national chairman defense against seditious conspiracy. Lamond, though, this officer, right, a police officer, plans to invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. So, in other words, Tarrio doesn't have the ability to use him as a witness. Why? Prosecutors warned that the officer would be charged with obstruction of justice, obstructing the investigation into Tarrio. If you go and testify, we're going to charge you with a crime. That's according to the Proud Boys attorney. They've accused the Justice Department of trying to bully Lamond into keeping quiet because his testimony would hurt their case. Prosecutors deny that charge. The legal skirmish is unfolding 2 weeks before jury selection is supposed to begin. One of the highest profile cases. Prosecutors charge Tarrio and others with trying to stop the peaceful transfer of power. All right. So apparently, right, there's more information about that. Lamond is an intelligence officer for the police. He's not a Proud Boy. He was responsible for monitoring groups like the Proud Boys when they came into Washington. Tarrio regularly communicated with Lamond before the Proud Boys came to the Capitol. Why? To discuss the purpose of the trip, the agenda, and the location. So it's very hard to have an insurrection if you're telling the cops where you're going to be. But that's evidently what happened. So let's take a look at the filing, the motion to dismiss. Enrique Tarrio files a motion to dismiss the indictment if the government does not immunize a very key witness, a police officer called Lieutenant Shane Lamond. Tarrio wants him to come and testify on his behalf. He's got information he says will be useful to his defense, and the government is trying to stop him from testifying, according to the defense. 11-page document filed out of the U.S. District Court for D.C., of course. The government is prosecuting Enrique Tarrio along with several other Proud Boys. The case is called Ethan Nordine. Defense lawyers for Tarrio write, they say, "Dear Judge, Defendant Tarrio, through counsel, we are here respectfully requesting an order dismissing the indictment if the government prosecutors don't give immunity to our key defense witness, Shane Lamond. Lamond has substantial exculpatory information to provide regarding Tarrio and most, if not all, of the co-defendants in this case. But the government claims that Lamond is under investigation. Oh, they just hang that out there. You're under investigation, sir. So if you say anything, we might and will use that against you. And that you're in danger of being prosecuted for criminal charges. And what does that do? It forces him to invoke his Fifth Amendment right, and it prevents him from testifying at trial. The government refuses to seek use immunity, right? They could give him just immunity for this. And Tarrio has a constitutional right to that testimony. It's exculpatory. He's got it, but he can't get at it. He can't exercise his constitutional rights to do so. The defense says that the government began its investigation in this case on J6. An innumerable number of witnesses have cooperated with the government for approximately 23 months. We're 2 years into this thing. The government has interviewed multitudes of witnesses, executed numerous search warrants, analyzed terabytes of data, forensic experts, and all sorts of stuff. But during the past 2 years, the investigation included the production of millions of pages of discovery, countless phone records, data dumps, thousands of videos, embedded CHS informants, confidential human sources. But there was no clear evidence of Lamond engaging in any illegal activity. The government was informed by the defense months ago that they wanted to call Lamond. At no point was Lamond in danger of being prosecuted until now, on the verge of trial. You're kidding. On the eve of trial, the government contacted the lawyer for Lamond, and they informed that lawyer that Lamond's actions might be considered obstruction of justice into Tarrio's investigation and that he may be prosecuted. Can you believe these prosecutors? Ugh! Waiting until now, writes the defense, is a tactical decision by the government to prevent Tarrio from exercising his constitutional right to a defense. Knowing that Lamond's testimony would exonerate Tarrio at trial, they're depriving him of his rights. And preventing him from testifying violates Tarrio's Sixth Amendment right. And if they decline to immunize him, the case should be dismissed. We learn more about Lieutenant Lamond. He's a highly decorated 22-year veteran of law enforcement. Sounds like a very credible witness. He served as an intelligence officer. His specific duty was to interact and communicate with various groups of varying political orientation that he visited with in Washington. So he's a Fed, right? He's an undercover individual. Tarrio communicated with Lamond before every trip. He informed Lamond of the purpose of the trip, the agenda, and the location. So the Proud Boys are saying, oh gosh, we're really excited to go insurrect America. But before we get there, to take over the Capitol building, let me communicate to a 21-year veteran, 22-year law enforcement veteran who actually works in D.C. The Proud Boys respected law enforcement, and unlike Antifa and BLM, they did not call to defund the police. They did not torch cars, destroy police property, attack police officers, riot, loot, destroy property. Tarrio informed Lamond of the Proud Boys and their J6 plans. To wit, says that they would not be wearing their colors, to protect themselves against being attacked by Antifa. They had been attacked previously. They know their colors. They planned to be present to watch Trump's speech. Tarrio planned to speak at the rally. They planned to protest the results of the election. And later that night, they planned to party with plenty of beer and babes. Rock on, bros. Beers and babes after a little insurrection. Perfect. Lamond was in communication with Tarrio during the time period of and concerning some of the key events alleged in the indictment. Lamond would provide exculpatory testimony negating Tarrio's alleged criminal intent. He didn't intend to go do any of this. We are unaware of any conceivable reason, writes the defense, particularly given that Lamond has been cooperating with the government for approximately 2 years, and after a review of voluminous discovery in this case, why the government might still be investigating Lamond in connection with this case. Man, everybody else got charged. Why not Lamond? Oh, that's right. He's going to be a key witness. That's really bad for them. They say that Tarrio has a right to call witnesses. Obviously, Washington versus Texas, 1967 case. You've got a right to present your own witnesses and establish your defense. It's called due process of law. Prosecutorial discretion and judicial actions aimed at discouraging defense witnesses have been found to have deprived them of their Sixth Amendment rights. Where the government prevents exculpatory witness from testifying, the conviction may be subject to reversal, and there's all sorts of additional case law here, cited out the wazoo. But where the government improperly threatens criminal prosecution to prevent the witness from testifying, the government, the courts, the judge typically has two choices. You can do one of two things. Either grant use immunity under the law or dismiss the case, okay? We need him to testify. We need immunity for this one particular use. Otherwise, you've got to dismiss the case. Courts typically employ a two-factor test when determining whether to present the government with a choice, whether the government has forced a potential witness to invoke his Fifth Amendment right through misconduct, like threatening him with charges, conferring immunity, or doing something else, and whether his testimony is material. Okay, so was he suppressed inappropriately, and is his testimony critical? In another case, they do some analysis, and we finally arrive at the argument. Tarrio's defense says as follows: "We have subpoenaed Lamond to testify," in Tarrio's defense. Now, we understand that Lamond is going to invoke his Fifth Amendment right. His lawyers are communicating that to him based on the government's representation that he's still under investigation and facing possible criminal prosecution. So it very likely went from Lamond's defense lawyer over to Tarrio's defense lawyer. Now it's making its way into this motion. The government has not provided any specific details other than what we've talked about the multi-year investigation into Lamond. Not to us, and to the best of our understanding, not even to Lamond's lawyers. His lawyers don't even know what they're poking around about. But it is especially curious that after these past 2 years, and with Lamond's full cooperation, the government has still not completed its inquiry. We're not aware of any contention by the government that Lamond has not fully cooperated or completely. It's not reasonable to expect any additional evidence is going to come out from this guy. And if they've got more evidence, they should bring an indictment against him. It's been 2 years. So therefore, upon reason and belief, we say the government confirmed as recently as December 1st that Lamond's position remains a subject of investigation. We understand that the government has informed Lamond's counsel over the summer that he was a target, and they have not agreed to offer him any immunity. Lamond's counsel told us he's going to invoke, and the government's actions therefore violate his due process rights, meaning Tarrio's. They've got some anticipated testimony. So if this guy were to come in, is his testimony material? Is he going to be useful? The court wants to make sure that if they're going to grant him this very special thing called immunity, that he's going to be useful in the trial. And they say, yeah, he is. They say Lamond is a highly decorated intelligence officer of the Metro Police, the MPA. He was charged with the duty to communicate with, befriend, and learn everything he can from various groups that are going to be visiting his jurisdiction. He's supposed to anticipate and react to their reactions. He established a relationship with the Proud Boys and other groups, monitored their movements, anticipated their actions, and knew the counteractions of other groups like Antifa and BLM. Lamond knew Tarrio personally, had interactions with him in person on November 14th, December 12th, and multiple other times leading up to J6. These communications were in person and via electronics. Communications were memorialized internally in the MPA, right, in the law enforcement agency, and Lamond, as per his training and established protocol, communicated this information up his chain of command. So he's reporting everything back up to the police. Tarrio and the Proud Boys absolutely respected and revered law enforcement. Unlike other groups that wanted to defund the police, they supported cops. Tarrio was not afraid of the police. Rather, he collaborated, cooperated, confided with them, and specifically did so with Lamond. He told Lamond his future plans, agendas, and the location of activities in D.C. But they're still insurrectionists, even though they're openly talking to the cops. After being stabbed and the stabbings of his brothers in the Proud Boys, Tarrio did not want to participate in any more violence. Tarrio wanted to get the Proud Boys message out without bloodshed or physical altercations. Tarrio clearly and accurately kept law enforcement informed of the Proud Boys' itinerary and expected law enforcement to be present during all activity to prevent any further violent attacks on the Proud Boys. Specifically, Tarrio told Lamond where he would be staying, where and when they would be marching, where and when he would be speaking, and how they would be dressed. Tarrio did this for the protection of his men, for the protection of the police, and most importantly, for the protection of the people. If he informed law enforcement via Lamond of his actions, the police would be mobilized to protect the people and keep people safe from the marauding hordes of Antifa. There were in-person and electronic communications with Lamond during and concerning key allegations in this indictment. Therefore, Lamond's testimony is relevant and material. It relates directly to the issues of Tarrio's intent, of his motive, and it's also exculpatory. Lamond's testimony is critical for Tarrio to receive a fair trial. There's a substantial likelihood that Lamond's testimony would exculpate him. If Tarrio planned a seditious conspiracy or a conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, would he tell his law enforcement his every move? Of course not. Finally, these and other questions are not cumulative and cannot be obtained from any other sources besides Lamond. We can't talk to anybody else about this. So in conclusion, more than 22 months after the investigation began and just a few weeks before trial, this government apparently insists now that exculpatory defense witnesses are still under investigation, very conveniently, forcing them to invoke their Fifth Amendment right so that they can't testify. We can conceive of no reason why Lamond is still under investigation after all this time. Given his extensive witness cooperation, the numerous search warrants, copious discovery, forensic expertise the government has brought to bear in this matter over such a long period of time, no reason. Lawyers for other co-defendants in this case have similar experiences with the government intimating and pressing exculpatory defense witnesses. This tactic is a misuse of the government's power and it's unconstitutional. If the government does not grant these witnesses use immunity for their testimony, Tarrio's compulsory process rights under the Sixth Amendment would be violated. You have the right to confront your accusers and to present evidence. That would deny him due process under the law. And so accordingly, Judge, we respectfully request that you dismiss this indictment. Get rid of the case. If they don't give us use immunity for Lamond, or in the alternative, compel them to give us that immunity. Great motion signed off by two lawyers, one named Sabino Waoregwe out in Florida, and another one from Nayeeb Hassan, also out of Florida, the great free state of Florida. Great motion submitted on behalf of Enrique Tarrio, and we'll see what the court does about this. My guess is they're just going to write a big fat denied on it, and we'll see if they grant immunity or not. But the trial is coming up in about 2 weeks, and it is going to be an interesting one. We'll see what it looks like. But we'll continue to follow all of the J6 sagas. Thank you for joining us as we do, for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.